All
What's
right.
going on, winners win? It's your boy Loso 2.0. And today I have a special guest with me. Can you please do the pleasure introducing yourself?
Sure. My name's Becki Siconolfi, and I've been a functional nutritionist for the past 18 years or so. And prior to that, I was a certified personal trainer and all that good stuff. And I graduated from Messiah University with a degree and all that stuff. So that's why I'm here to talk about health.
Okay, cool. You said 18 years. Wow. I mean, listen, I thought you were about, 20 years old. So, I mean,
Well, Carlos, when you eat well, it happens. You age a little bit more gracefully.
okay, that's all good. That's all good. Why don't you kind of talk about the beginning journeys of how you got started into the health field?
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so well, like I said, I've been doing this for 18 years, and I got into this because originally I wanted people to be fit. So I became a certified personal trainer. I have a degree in exercise physiology, and I thought, okay, this is the way to make people healthier. I'm going to get them in shape, and I'm going to put them on a great exercise program. And then I started noticing that they weren't getting like the greatest results, even though they were doing what I told them to do. They were eating the food, they were all that stuff. Like sometimes people lie, but I didn't think these people were.
Yeah.
Most of
Mhm.
them, were doing what I told them to do.
Mhm.
And then I started to have some of my own health challenges, and I knew it was hormones. And at that time, there really wasn't a whole lot of, conversations about hormone imbalance, and things like that, and how it can affect health. And I started to do some research. I was pretty convinced that I had some estrogen dominance or some adrenal insufficiency going on, which is what I'm going to talk about today, mostly adrenal insufficiency. And I couldn't get help. I got passed along from a food allergist to an endocrinologist who ran labs, didn't even bother calling me. I had to call the office, track down my own labs, and they said, there's nothing wrong with you, things like that. So eventually, my journey kind of came to a head when I was at the chiropractor's office one day, and he ran an instrument over my body, and he said, "Whoo, the inflammation coming off your body is like off the charts." And I'm thinking,
Mhm.
how is this possible? But it kind of makes sense because I kind of feel like crap. So he said, "I'm going to refer you to my mother-in-law. She's a naturopathic doctor." And I said, "At this point, I will try anything." Long story short, I spent the next 12 years working with her. She completely turned my life around and taught me all about the concept of finding the root cause, and treating the root cause instead of just throwing pills at a symptom, and
Mhm.
think like, why don't we just stabilize you, then you can just live your life, And I learned all about root cause. I learned all about, detoxification, digestion, emotional root causes, ancestral root causes, all kinds of really interesting things that are just not taken into account in the Western medical field at all. It's just, let's make sure we keep you alive, which we appreciate. But, if we're kind of suffering, then they don't really have a whole lot of help for us in terms of optimizing our health. So
Mhm.
it was, and I got my health back, obviously, through working with her and then being mentored by her and so on. And I decided I'm going to make this commitment to make sure that nobody else has to go through what I went through with the runaround, no one taking me seriously, no one even being able to help me, and just
Mhm.
basically waiting for me to get worse, which wasn't an acceptable option. I was thinking, I don't want to get worse. I don't feel great. I can't even get out of
100%.
bed. And chronic fatigue syndrome is a label that I didn't accept. So I decided to set out on a mission to help my clients, really condense and collapse the timeline of results of, I want to lose weight, I want to feel better, and I want to do it in a short time frame. And I don't want to have to take years to figure this out, or worse yet, develop it in a treatable disease state, where you are eligible for a drug that just kind of keeps you alive, but you still don't feel good. So that's
Mhm.
kind of, how I ended up where I am now. So after that, I was mentored by a functional medicine doctor for a couple years. And then I enrolled at the Kalish Institute for Functional Medicine, not to be a doctor, but just to have more formal education on, how to
Mhm.
help people, the right tests, the right supplements that they can bring to their doctor and say, hey, I want to use something natural. Can we fit this into the treatment plan? Things like that. So, like I said, I've been doing this for 18 years. I work with people completely online. I don't work with people in person anymore. And I'm a trauma informed coach too, which means I've gone through a certification process, which has helped me to helps me understand and recognize different types of trauma, how it's affected their body, how to help the body process the trauma using supplements, foods, other remedies. I use emotion code, body code type of techniques. I use ministry techniques. I mean, all kinds of different things just to get people back to that original design factory reset, button state where they are the way they were designed to be.
Yeah.
So I've spent about 18 years perfecting that. So I hope that answers your question. I probably, expanded on it quite a bit, but that's what I do.
No, that's all good. That's all good. Seems like you got a lot of knowledge, a lot of education, wisdom too, because you actually went through those things as well. And that's how we all get started, right? We
Yes.
see what we went through and we're trying to help the next person to not go through the same things we had.
Absolutely.
Now you said that you help people do it in a shorter span of time. People take you serious and stuff. What are maybe a technique or so that you use in order to shorten that timeline?
Sure. That's a really great question. So yeah, we all want results like yesterday, right?
Yeah,
Like,
that's what.
but so there's two different ways that I help, condense the timeline. I mean, one of it is professional analysis. So I'm taking all the 18 years of experience I have, and I know which symptoms to look for and then correlate them to, okay, this is what's most likely, going on. Maybe they're fasting and it's bad for their body. There's some people that just don't respond well to fasting and it actually causes them problems and
Mhm.
metabolic dysfunction. So things like that. The other method that I use is applied kinesiology. So I'm not sure if you're familiar with that. Oh,
I went to
it.
school for that. I went 4 years of college for
Yes.
kinesiology science.
Yes, I love it. So I do use muscle testing with clients, and
Mhm.
I do that via proxy. My naturopath introduced me to that 18 years ago, and I thought it was like the greatest thing since sliced bread because there was no more guessing. It was, and some people are probably listening to this and going, raise an eyebrow, but listen, it does help pinpoint. When you've got a really great practitioner, it can help you really narrow down, what's the best thing for you, how long should you, do it, and so on. So I use
Mhm.
applied kinesiology and then just, professional wisdom and patterns I've seen over the past 18 years. And that really condenses the timeline.
Yeah, no, well, I guess that makes sense. I mean, you've been through it, and then you did the research. So now you're taking them from doing all that stuff themselves and just like, nope, here you go. I got it already for you.
Absolutely. I do not want you Googling your fingers off for the next 8 years, trying to figure out what I've figured out. I can give it to you in about 3 months,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I
So
take.
that's what I do for my clients. Because like I said, I really didn't want anybody else to suffer unnecessarily and struggle with somebody, please listen to me. Someone, please take me seriously. I don't feel good. Oh, well, why don't you take Prozac? And I'm thinking, really? Nowhere did I say I was depressed. I said,
Mhm.
I don't feel good. And I think that there's a use for Prozac, but I think that it's vastly overprescribed. And a lot of my colleagues agree on that. I've
Mhm.
colleagues in the mental health field that are psychiatrists and certified therapists, and they agree it's vastly overprescribed. So it's time to stop glossing over legitimate health issues with drugs that further band-aid the problem and push the root cause deeper. And that's the area that I really want to cover. And I have to say it's vastly undercovered right now
Mhm.
because people like me, functional medicine doctors and so on, even therapists, they're now on wait lists. I have some coaching availabilities, but they go quickly because people are starting to realize that they need root cause help. They want someone to get into the weeds with them and say, okay, am I not getting enough vitamin A? Like, what's my problem? Should I eat more
Mhm.
salmon? Instead of taking another pharmaceutical drug that may or may not make them feel better.
Okay, so you're basically going against all medicine, really. It's not,
Well, I just want to say I'm not against medicine because
not
medicine
against, but
saves
yeah.
lives, but it's okay. We've exhausted everything else. Now let's use the medicine. Let's at least, and most doctors will agree with this, let's straighten, and they're vastly undereducated in that department. They get 1 hour on nutrition. So I've had clients come to me and say, my doctor said to follow the Kardashian diet. And I have to just hold on a second. Did you really the Kardashian diet? And they'll say, yeah, do you know about it? And I said, no, ma'am, no, sir, but we are not doing that. Whatever
Mhm.
it is, it's probably not a good idea. But they just don't know what else to tell these people to do with other than just eat healthier. Nobody knows what that means.
Yeah,
Does it, you know what I mean? The food pyramid has us all confused. And then
yeah.
people think keto is the way to go. And that doesn't work for some people. And just people are confused. So
Mhm.
if we can lay the foundation nutritionally, which is what I do, then they can get much better health outcomes, whether it's performance as an entrepreneur, weight loss, an athlete, a stay-at-home mom, a lawyer. I mean, I have attorneys that I work with, they need to be on their P's and Q's. They need to be able to perform. And if they're fatigued in the courtroom, they can't pull words out of the air, they're mentally, cognitively foggy. That's a big problem for their livelihood. So focused on performance, things like that to help people really optimize.
Honestly, I'm glad that I interviewed you, because it's like, I'm sorry, I just interviewed someone yesterday, you today. It's like we're all in the same field, but it's like we're attacking it different ways. And it's just, I love that, right? So it's like, I really do love
that. We all need help in different capacities, and that's why we're all here. We're all here to support each other, and we all bring different things to the table, because your skill set helps people, and it's good. You help people get organized and, be successful. We need that. We got to have it.
No, I definitely appreciate you even just doing that. So, I mean, you always, it seems like, at least for the last 18 years, I'm not going to ask you how old you are, but it seems like a lot of times you've been towards, this field. How has your support system been with going in this direction, like from family and friends? Or
Yeah, that's a really great question. And I think my answer is going to really mirror what I think a lot of entrepreneurs go through. So, in the beginning, my family and friends just wanted me to be healthy and happy, and at first, because I couldn't get support from the medical community, they were like, oh, maybe she's, being dramatic or, whatever. But I had serious issues. Like I couldn't get out of bed. I had very serious PMS problems. A lot of ladies can relate to that. My doctor had prescribed 4 Aleve every 4 hours. You know what an incredibly high dose of Aleve that is? Couldn't get out of bed because of the pain, all of those things that I won't get into, but a lot of women can relate to. And it was just like, well, why don't you just accept it? And I'm thinking, well, no, I missed Christmas when I was 19 years old because I couldn't get out of bed because the pain was so severe. So that's a big problem.
Yeah.
So eventually they realized that, I wasn't getting help from the medical community, and they supported my natural efforts. Then once I started getting results, and big results, they said, well, how can we do this? How do we do what you do? And then before you know it, they started eating like I did. And they started using the same functional naturopathic approaches that I did. And they realized that this was a really good thing. And it just, most people didn't know about it. And it has its place in wellness. So, I've always been a very determined person. Like when I find something that really resonates with me, I'm going to stick with it and pursue it and run it. I'm going to run with it because this is the thing. This is the fix. I'm going to go with it. If I don't have support, well, that's kind of unfortunate, but I'm still going to go with it. So, what I would say to people that are in that same boat, if you feel passionate and it resonates with you, keep going, because eventually you end up picking up and pulling people along with you like a tugboat, because they want what you have figured out how to do. And I got into this field largely because of that. And now I teach everybody else how to do what I was able to achieve. And, that's the story. So support's helpful, but if you don't have it, just find people who will support you. And I've hired mentors, business coaches, other doctors along the way to support me when I either needed 1, education, or 2, support that I wasn't able to get. So it's good to find out what resources are available to you too, and leverage those and hire them when you need to.
Yeah, no, I think you said a lot of good things, especially too about just like support from entrepreneur standpoint. Sometimes people feel like they're alone on it, and you were like, no, I went and I had my family's support, even when the medical community wasn't supporting me. So it's like you literally just started with yourself, then your family started coming along, and then you started locally and started expanding yourself out. Now you're strictly online. I think that's a pretty good thing for people to take from that.
Oh yeah, absolutely. If you feel passionate about something, even if you don't have support, find people who will support you. And sometimes that's a mentor that you hire that believes in you just as much as you do. So it's important to find that support, because not everyone's going to be on board with some of your dreams and, visions for yourself, but that's okay. You just find somebody who is. So
I appreciate that. That's definitely good stuff. So being an entrepreneur, and especially in the medical field, how do you find a good work-life balance?
That's a really great question, especially because a lot of the things I help people with are caused by a really bad work-life balance.
Yeah.
Like adrenal fatigue, like we talked about before the interview. So I have organized my schedule so that I have office hours for my clients on a certain day of the week or days of the week, depending on what program we're involved in, from
Mm,
this time of the day to the end of this time of the day, and then it cuts off. So that way I can have my work-life balance. I won't answer
mm,
messages after a certain time of day. I have block scheduling on my calendar. Things like that. Because otherwise you feel like you're on a hamster wheel. It's like
mm,
10:45 at night and somebody wants a quote, and like you can never relax because you're like, oh, I have to get this person this information. But really
mm.
what you realize is that it's okay if you send it the next day. I mean, it's okay. People understand that you have work-life balance and business hours and things like that. And I think really over enthusiastic entrepreneurs that really want to make a difference are like, no, I'm going to be available whenever that messenger goes off. And it's like, let me just tell you, that's a really difficult game to play because you do start to sacrifice some of your sanity and your work-life balance. So you just set office hours, and then respond within those hours. And that basically is how you block things off for yourself.
Okay. And you just mentioned adrenal fatigue. I'm sorry if I said that wrong. I'm trying not to
Oh,
butcher
you're
that.
right.
Can you kind of explain to the audience, what that is and like how do you help, with
Yeah.
that?
Excuse me. So this was the main thing I wanted to talk about today. So, adrenal fatigue. And first of all, the medical community does not recognize that term. So if you go to your doctor wanting to talk about it, they may laugh you out of the office or tell you to stop Googling things.
That's crazy.
But the crazy thing, it exists. The problem is that I don't believe they're trained in it, is because there is no pharmaceutical drug to treat it. There just isn't. There's Addison's disease, and then there's Cushing's disease, which are either, they're not making enough cortisol or they're making too much.
Mhm.
Um, but they don't recognize what's happening in the middle, which is the breakdown of the body's ability to cope with stress and over time. So we're not talking like one day or even a couple days. We're talking like weeks and months of stress and pressure and things like that. So the body's adrenal system gets overtaxed, has
Mhm.
a hard time keeping up and making those stress hormones and all the other signaling things. And people start to notice that they don't feel motivated anymore. They can't get up in the morning no matter how much sleep they get. They start to crash at 2 and 3 in the afternoon. They feel like they have to start doing everything with willpower instead of actual energy. They start to
Mhm.
caffeinate all day long, sometimes every 2 hours. They start feeling, drawn to salty, crunchy, chocolatey sugar foods just to keep themselves going. And
Mhm.
those are all signs that your adrenal glands are under way too much stress and they need a break. Sometimes they feel drawn to alcohol because at the end of the day, might get this like second wind where they can't relax and they're like, okay, maybe I'll just drink something and that'll help. Well, it doesn't. I mean, it's a short-term fix, but then it causes you long-term problems.
Mhm.
So the adrenal system is meant to respond to short-term emergencies, like there's a scary bear chasing you. Oh no, gotta run away, shoot some adrenaline into your system, some sugar so you can run away. Okay, everything's over, you're fine. But the problem is when your body thinks you're running from a bear every single day, all day long, it just can't keep up with that. So that's when people start to develop adrenal fatigue. That's the best way to explain it. And I have a list of symptoms here because people are thinking like, oh, this might sound kind of like me. Okay. So I'm going to read some to you. So a tendency to gain weight and unable to lose it, especially around the waist, a
Mhm.
tendency to tremble when under pressure, reduced sex drive, lightheaded when rising from a laying down position, unable to remember things. That's really hard if you're an attorney, like I was talking about, or any
Mhm.
business person. Lack of energy in the mornings and also in the afternoon between 3 and 5. You feel better suddenly for a brief period after a meal, but then you kind of crash again. You feel tired between 9 and 10, but you resist going to bed. Need coffee or stimulants to get going in the morning. You crave salty, fatty, and high protein foods like meat and cheese. For women, there's increased symptoms of PMS, and periods are heavy and then stop, and then almost stopped on the fourth day, only to start to flow again on the fifth or sixth day, which is really confusing for women. Pain in
Mhm.
the upper back or neck with no apparent reasons, and we have 3 to go here. You tend to feel better when stress is relieved, such as on vacation, difficulties getting up in the morning, and lightheadedness.
Mhm.
So, I mean, that really can sound like a lot of high stress, either entrepreneurs or stay at home parents, or really any parent. And, they just kind of keep going because they think that's life. It's like, oh, it's just
Mhm.
how it is, but it's not how it is. It's sign that your energy systems are under too much, pressure and stress. So what ends up happening is you start to go through various stages of adrenal fatigue. So there's 4 stages. So there's the alarm stage where there's something that's causing you to panic. And then you all of a sudden feel really great. And like you can take on the world. It's like, oh yeah, I can totally do that project. I can stay up until midnight making cookies for this bake sale, whatever. And you can only do that for so long. And then you start to hit stage 2. And then that's where you can't get out of bed in the morning. You're really exhausted. You start going for those foods that make you feel better. You might start using some adaptogenic herbs, which is a way to help treat it. Whatever. They might make you feel better. If you don't stop the life stressors, you go into stage 3. And that's when you're barely surviving. You're surviving, but you're just kind of slogging through each day. Supplements might not be working. You're really exhausted. You are weight loss resistant. No matter what you tried, you have zero energy to do anything, but you still make yourself do it. And stage 4 is when people end up in the hospital because they've eventually run out of the ability to create stress hormone and things like that. So they don't have a diagnosable disease quite yet, but they're pretty darn close. So if you listen carefully, there's a lot of entrepreneurs in the space that will talk about how they had to go to the hospital because they burned themselves out. There's some that talk candidly about it on YouTube. So it does actually happen to entrepreneurs that they push through all the signs and then they end up in the hospital. And when you reach that point, it can take years to recover from that. And it isn't talked about enough. So it's preventable, but you need to recognize the signs.
Okay. All right. And then when you do recognize the signs, that's what a time for you to just take a break now, you're saying, and just like step away from your work?
Yeah. I mean, the best thing, excuse me. I mean, for most of us, like, you can't step away from like being a parent, and you can't step away from like having a job or, being an entrepreneur, but you need to focus on creating breaks for yourself during the day. And, maybe you need to take on less clients or, maybe you need to work less hours during the day, something along those lines, because your lifestyle is what created the condition. And in some cases, poor diet and a few other things, but your lifestyle is usually what can undo the condition too. So more relaxation, taking time to yourself, going for walks. If you're intermittent fasting, you need to stop because it's going to make it worse. If you're not eating every couple hours, you need to start doing that because not eating frequently enough can make it worse. And if it's possible, you need to cut out sugar, which everyone's going to be like, no, because it's like what makes some people run. And some people also respond well to cutting out gluten and dairy because gluten and dairy can make a lot of these symptoms a lot worse. Gluten for sure, dairy is variable for some people. You want to prioritize sleep. And you want to pick the right kind of exercise. So you don't want to be training for a marathon. You don't want to be doing, like hour-long cardio sessions. And you don't want to be doing, HIIT workouts, high intensity interval training. All of those things are just going to wipe you out, CrossFit, Orange Theory, just weight taxing. So you need to be just lifting weights, like 3 sets of 10. You want to be resting in between sets, going for long walks, stretching. Anything that's restorative is going to be good for the body at this stage. And then you want to be taking some great supplements. So like, and I wrote down a list here to my right. I'm just going to read off. So like vitamin C, B5, glutathione. You got to make sure it's a good quality glutathione. Otherwise it's not going to work. So I like liposomal glutathione. A little pricey, but it gets the job done. Vitamin E, vitamin D, adrenal glandulars, which is desiccated adrenal gland from an animal. So they'll take it from like a pig or a cow, and then they'll pulverize it and put it into a capsule. And then you take it and it can make you feel immensely better. But just a word of caution to people, you need to work with someone to make sure that's the right choice for you, because it's so powerful that if you're not depleted enough to need it, it's going to make things worse for you. So it may actually send you in the opposite direction and lay you out on the couch and you won't be able to get up because it's overloaded to the system. So I wouldn't do that one unless you talk to somebody. Herbal adaptogens, collagen powder, DHEA, which you can just get off Amazon. But again, you got to be careful with that one. You want to make sure you run labs before you start taking DHEA because it's pretty powerful. So just to give you an idea of like how powerful it is, you can do a 5 milligram dose, and that can get people, from not being able to get up in the morning to like hopping out of bed to 100 milligram dose, which, that's huge variability. So if you're really depleted, 100 milligrams is a lot. But if you're not really depleted, 100 milligrams could majorly mess you up. So you want to make sure that you work with someone to make sure you take the right dose. CoQ10, PQQ, and then fulvic minerals. So you don't need to take all of those things, but some of those things are going to be really helpful on a healing, recovery journey. And then eventually you want to try and drop some of those things off and just get it from your food naturally.
Okay. No, that was definitely a long list of stuff that definitely got
There's a
help.
lot there.
Yeah. No. I was about to say, man, you gotta take all of that.
Well, so I wouldn't do all that, but it's just, it's just some of the tools we have available. I don't have anybody that's taking literally every single one of those things. It's just based on the person and, what work the best for them.
Okay. Yeah, everybody's different. So I was watching a famous entrepreneur known as Russell Brunson, and he said, "Oh, okay, so
Russell.
yeah, I'm a big Dan Kennedy fan. But he said, show me your bookshelf, and I can tell you what type of person you are. So let me ask you, what is your favorite book, and what is the biggest lesson you learned from it?"
Oh man, that's such a great question. So my favorites just change all the time, just, on my interests, and things like that. But there's one really useful one that people might really like. And it's by Lisa Bevere, and it's called The Body Says Love Yourself. And it's a little deeper than just that, because most people are like, I've heard that before, it doesn't work, whatever, So Lisa Bevere has figured out the metaphysical causes of virtually every disease state. So this is just her analysis. It's not like law or anything, but she's figured out what emotional state has contributed to each medical condition. So she's got everything from ulcers to polycystic ovarian syndrome to, things like that. And I think what's really helpful with that is it helps you connect the dots that emotions and repetitive thoughts are what helps to create disease states. And in your genetics, then those thoughts and those emotional experiences are what pulls the trigger. So, because a lot of people say like, oh, I didn't ask for this or whatever. And it's like, nobody asked for it. But sometimes it helps to recognize what emotional states might have contributed to it. And you can undo a lot of the damage that's been done by emotional things that have happened. So like good examples are like anger, fear, unforgiveness, and anything on the negative side of things. And it's not that there's any bad emotions. It's just when the more negative states kind of get stuck in the body in the form of neuropeptides, that can really trigger certain medical conditions and disease states. So I don't agree with all of her methodology, but I do agree with the thoughts and the emotions can contribute to certain states of health.
Okay. Yeah, no, I definitely agree with that as well. So a lot of information was given out here today, and we definitely appreciate all of it. If you had to leave the audience with one last piece of advice, what would it be?
Oh man. So, okay, here's what I would tell you. If you think there is something not quite right with your body and nobody will listen to you, keep pushing until somebody will listen to you. It doesn't matter what the labs say. It doesn't matter what the doctor says. It doesn't matter what your best friend or your spouse says. If you think there's something wrong, keep pushing until somebody does listen to you.
Okay. Yeah, no, that's definitely important. I definitely think it's important. So I appreciate that. Now, if someone wanted to reach out to you just about that adrenal fatigue, I feel like I'm always butchered. I'm not, but how could they reach out to you?
Sure. Well, they can find me on my website. So it's www.livehealthywithbecki, and it's Becki spelled with an I, or they can email me at hello@livehealthywithbecki.com.
Okay. All right. Cool.
Or they can find me on Facebook.
Yeah, or on Facebook. Yep, definitely. So you heard that. You guys heard that. Go with that. You said it's livehealthywithbecki.com.
Yes, with an I. Becki with an I.
Becki with an I at the end. All right. So definitely go there, check her out, see her page. She's gonna help you. She's gonna help you, and keep talking until someone listens to you.
That's the biggest thing. There's always someone out there that's willing to listen to your story, and most likely the one that is willing to listen will have the skill set and the tools to help you.
Yeah, and I appreciate you taking the time on today to hop on this podcast. So I appreciate that.
Oh, I appreciate you having me here, Carlos, and I loved it. It was a great conversation today.
Okay, cool. Thank you. So that's really all I have for everybody today, man. Keep killing the day. Winners win, losers lose, and you guys pray for success like this. I'll see you guys.